So this one I'm going to go for is going to be called In Between the Static, written on 23rd of October 2013. And the submission is by I'm Gonna Be That Guy. So here it is, In Between the Static. There it is, In Between the Static. It's faint at first, very deep in the hiss, but after you hear it, after you know it's there, it becomes so loud, you want to cover your ears and scream. I could sound the words out for you, but that's it. We never got the romanization down, but it sounds like it thought cool, yelled fig, he had toe, de vago text. There are images in the snow. One's beyond the bisected face and black eyes. It's seen the dimensions we can only dream about in the static. I've seen across the universe, spindly stick figures, with no noticeable head and arms that bow out, meet almost to the pointed feet. Diamond storms that rip the skin off, ugly dog things scavenging in a pure white desert. I've seen former colleagues from the mountain. I wonder if they were taken or given. Mull and Eggers dying slow asphyxiated deaths on the early air of some blank and purple alien planet. Positive experiments, June, Lidso, Schwartz, Tandalo, Ronnie, others. Vivisection, of course. Hours of it, no anesthetic, but they don't die or pass out. Dying is for later. Dying is for the bioweapon testing using diseases we shouldn't have had to worry about encountering for centuries. Tandalo was ripped apart by a mold. Just a few airborne spores of it, and in days it was going everywhere. Skin bulged and eyes bulged. Couldn't close his mouth because it grew on his tongue. Then he just burst. Blossomed into a bloody hell of deeply grooved fungi. Gases, artificial gravity, abrasion tests, brain surgeries, amputations, organ transplants with strange creatures as donors, Unit 7C1 stuff. Hours of experiments in the static. Hours and minutes. He had this way of sold the information, like a note folded into a tight square, but you could still read every inch of it. They bring the static with them, radio and television. You don't have to, they do it on purpose. It's stimulus. I hear the hiss and start to cry. In the beginning, I used to lock down the house. I bought every kind of locking bolt and chain I could. Put them on the windows and doors. A few times I boarded up everything. Used my furniture to barricade an empty entry part. Any entry point is useless. The fingers they get through, they flatten, stretch and slip through the cracks. Lawn sun, worms that wrap around whatever's keeping them out. Sometimes they make me watch. Sometimes my cabin fills with burning light. When it fades, I've lost time and there they are, watching me. Eventually I stopped. No more locks, no barricades. Just sit and wait, but not tonight. Today I'm making them work for it. When the static screams and the voice comes on, I don't think, just run to the door and slip outside. Finally, wiping your tears from the eyes, I lit up. Jesus, there's so many of them. They don't look like they should fly. It's all weird angles and counterintuitive design. In space, it doesn't matter, I guess. Here, though, they should be falling out of the sky. Back at the mountain, we could use the internal tech, but the design was too radical. People would get suspicious, things would change. Completely silent, they hover just barely visible against the glow. I head for the woods. They've been here a long time. We've gotten some things from them, technology mostly, helplessly, but it's like beats from Manhattan. We always knew. We always knew that we were in the driver's seat. Always knew how it would end. You've seen the things they can do, even if you don't realize it. They can level buildings like they're made of balsa wood. They slip in between. I don't know what to call it, dimensions. Realities. They go and they rip the tiniest piece apart. Now on our side, the whole thing comes down. They can do it to whole cities. August 9th, 1945. That wasn't a bomb, it was simple mimicry. Simple mimicry. The last light of dusk is almost gone. I didn't buy a flashlight. I thought it would draw too much attention to me. Now I'm just barely trotting, groping in front of me with one hand and keeping the other on the nearest tree trunk. This is stupid. They're going to catch me. I'm just drawn out. They found me here after I left the mountain. The other side of the country, in the middle of nowhere, it was a message. I'm not going to tell anybody. Didn't matter. I laid back and watched the edge of the forest. My heart beats so loud they could probably find just by following the thumps. A tall pillar of bugs after blue light flicks on where my cabin is. It moves so slowly it takes me a while to even realise it's gotten closer. I turn and run, crashing and slailing, kicking leaves the snapping branches. There's nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. My foot drops into a hole. Phased rabbit panic fills me and I wrench my leg and around to see what kind of crap it is from beyond the stars and plot in. It's just a goddamn hole made by some dumb animal. Page shoots up my calf still. I gingerly take my twisted ankle out of the hole and lunge forward, time to give up. What a stupid idea. I could give my way into the darkness, maybe try to cover myself with leaves, but that's just entertainment for them. A funny note in the catalogue of human behaviour. I ease myself down against a tree and just watch the light. When the light hits them, the tree trunks bend outward like they're elastic. They're bigger than we can see. They exist in every direction. Closer, I can almost make out the figure inside of the light. I think I'm crying, but my senses are unraveling in that presence. It's the only thing I'm really aware of it. Closer, I can see the outline of the thick V-shaped head. It's just back, half a foot in fat tumor-like bubbles. At the apex of each slant is his fleshed-over eyes, wide indents and long brows, and holding in small lakes of a thin membrane. There's an eye similar to ours underneath the skin. I know I've done past an autopsies. They just don't need it anymore. He's talking to me, cooing sun-layered woods packed with images and smell and sound. Destruction, charred flesh, crying babies, the static deafening. Holocaust, fast and slow. Some die in the flames and quakes of reality. The molecular disease, while others die in camps, farms, zoos and labs. There are holes in the sky. Out of them come exterminating angels, servants of a distant and inconceivable order. No one does anything, nobody tries to stop them. It's above me. I think you hear my sobs over the woods. It raises a six-fingered hand and the digits slither forward. Two of them, vaguely warm as life, glide over my face and up my cheeks. They flatten and slowly go over my eyelids, under the ball and back curling around the optic nerve. Two more up each nostril. The fingers divide, sending tributaries into my sinuses and down into my lungs. They atomize, passes through membrane and cell walls to get into my nervous system and brain, and being absorbed, translated into something intangible that they can send through the air to the ships above. They don't have to do this, there are other ways. I wake up on the floor of the white room. I hoped it wouldn't be this. Prayed. It wasn't always, but for the past few months, it mostly was. There's Ronnie Stadler, cradled in her chair, made from a kind of a rubbery satin. She was one of the few women at the mountain, not pretty, but pretty enough, and funny. If we'd gotten together before, I would have been a lucky man. They've already put the suit on me, like a second skin that keeps all my dander and oils in. You wouldn't know I was wearing it unless I touched you and you felt the thin plastic dermis. I get up, the suit tightens and listens where it needs to as a move. I've gotten as used to her as can be expected to. Visions of her still float up in my brain and I have to push them out any way I can, but when I'm with her I can deal with it. Gently touch her on. Oh, what? There's muffled snorting and sucking sounds from inside her. The upper row of teeth, what used to be the back of her head, jostles a bit, and the thumb that hands down under the lower set squirms against the base of her skull. She tries to turn her useless and hidden eyes on me. It's just me. It's Ronnie. She raises a shaking hand and I softly take it. It hurts her to think, even this little touch, I want him to take me back soon. I want him to let me stay here with him forever. I watch her blood flow. It was perfect. Blood thick for seat as it ran along the outside of her veins to her heart. It was red muscle, nestled in between her lungs, rocking softly with each pump. My eyes traced the veins and arteries that make her exposed body into a road mat. The quiet biological noise of her organs and her strangled breathing, and the only sounds in the white cell. I still understand how she breathes. I sit there on the floor near her leg, and with the greatest care I rest the cheek again. It's the pale tissue and muscle of her thigh. In a stuttering shift, my eyes finally focus on the light yellow sphere piled on her belly, and a sea of liquor and I against the bruise, purple blood drop of a placenta. My eyes lock on the button, black eyes of her fetal daughter. Does Ronnie even know? He turned her inside out right after fertilization. She must have figured out why they were forcing us to be together. It would be easy just to reach in, break the water, and take her tiny unformed body in my hands and sew her against the wall. Prayed her beneath my heel, rip her in two, just as easily. I could grab Ronnie's heart and mangle it into uselessness. Even easier, when I get back home, I can cut my throat or bore holes through my brain and hand myself in Thal's tea, but I don't. I do love Ronnie, even though at first she cried, struggled, and looked at me with such hate. After a while she softened, or maybe the whole ordeal just burned all the care of. And I love her daughter. I love her even though there's a white furrow running through the center of her head, and it's getting deep and narrow. I don't know how long they let me stay, but it's not long enough. I wake up in my cabin, disgusted and afraid. It all feels different down here. Down here the worst is still coming. Coming on such a definite track, it might as well have already happened. More than my tortured colleagues. That's what they show me in the static. Where I look hard in between their shifting black and white points, past the V-shaped face, past the experiments, I see Earth. I see every television and radio blaring static like an air raid siren. A billion fathers cussing and sucking food channel after channel of snow. The only warning they get, and it will come soon. So that was called In Between the Static by I'm Gonna Be That Guy.